Games. There's so many of them. No one can play all the games. The games just won't stop pouring in. There's just too much. Scientists have proven that there's just too many games. How are the good games supposed to be found? There's just too many of them. Who's supposed to tell these kids about these games? Never worry, someone that's unemployed and has bad opinions is here to save the day. No game is safe around him. This guy's an absolute wingnut and no game is too sacred. If I were a game developer, I'd hide my games from him. He just can't stop gaming. He's on a gaming spree. He even plays with games in early access. Only EDP would do that. This man's name? Yo! Alright, so after the whole Returnal thing, I really felt like playing some more roguelikes. And as it turns out, there are actually so many of them that they don't usually get that much attention. So I decided I might as well shine some light on lesser known ones that are really, really good. Meaning I won't be bringing up any of these games, because if you do like roguelikes and haven't tried them yet, then like, what are you doing? And lastly, no deck builder games, because those games are so different that they honestly deserve their own video. Alright, time for the first game. I'm gonna hit you right off the bat with a banger. Going Under is a roguelike where you play as an intern tasked with some menial chores like genocide. The most noticeable thing about this game is its art style. It's based off those strange minimalist designs that companies like Google have been using, and it gives the game a really clean and goofy feeling. The actual game itself has really good combat and writing. It plays like an old Zelda game with a lock-on feature, and when you start up an attack, you're stuck in the animation until it ends. And while you could just pummel the living shit out of every enemy, the actual main way of dealing damage is by picking up weapons, which can be anything you can get your hands on. Ranging from generic office supplies like staplers and pens to the whip. All weapons have durability and traits, and large weapons can't be held in your inventory. The inventory allowing you to hold up to 2 extra weapons besides the one you have out. Another interesting combat mechanic is the ability to just start chucking things. And while it's not the most effective way of dealing damage, it is very funny to just start unloading an entire office depot on something. These mechanics make it so the combat feels pretty goofy and enjoyable. And the power-ups are much the same. They feel really impactful visually and mechanically, and it's always fun just to see what they're gonna actually do. There's also these apps you can pick up that allow you to do many things, which includes a snapshot that can stun enemies to an espresso directly into your bloodstream. Although I can't comment much on the story since I only played the demo, but what was there was extremely charming and fit the whole mood. As for the soundtrack, I mean, just listen to this. The demo ends with an interesting boss fight and you climbing the literal corporate ladder. If what you've seen on screen looks at all interesting, then make sure to check the game out. There's even a free demo if you want to try it out firsthand. I'll give Going Under 8.5 boom smacks out of 10. The demo was so good that I instantaneously bought the game, and after getting much deeper into it, I can safely say it was well worth it. Next on the list is a stranger one, Children of Morta. In this game you play as the Bursons, yes, plural. This is a dungeon crawler type game like Diablo and it's multiplayer as well. I'd say the shining point here would be progression and presentation. You see, it starts off with this really pretty animation and follows up with Granny here checking out what just happened. Then a quick tutorial segment. The game is a top-down hack and slash action RPG, with a focus on stamina management and crowd control. The combat is okay, I guess. Nothing that really stands out, it's just serviceable. The real reason you play this game is because the progression system is really addicting and it has a really well-written story about a family having to fend off a great evil and with a bond strong enough to do so.
Love. Truly a divine emotion, especially during dark days. Love had motivated this mother to lay down her life for her cub.
The story has a lot of heartwarming moments as well as a lot of heavy moments. I remember this one moment in the story where the younger son isn't allowed to go hunting with the family because the elder son went missing for the exact same reason. But the grandpa of the boy sees how upset the kid gets because he can't join his family on this epic quest. So he decides to craft him a pair of knives and tells him to go pop off. And so he does, which scares the shit out of everybody because it's currently the apocalypse and the boy just went missing for no reason. Although after returning it turns out he's really good at fighting, but he still gets scolded anyways. Then later a scene plays where the father goes into the boy's room and I thought it was gonna be some cliche, oh it's just because we care about you type of thing. Instead his parents tell him sorry and that it's unreasonable to hold him back from his passion. The father then says,
"My boy, it's time I teach you how to pop off properly."
And I'm no softie, but this did genuinely give me a heartwarming feeling. Although because the story is the main feature, the roguelike elements come out pretty weak. The power-ups don't really feel like much since the main way of getting more powerful is by leveling up, and the levels feel less like runs and more like actual dungeons. So if you're in the mood for a hack and slash RPG with a really good story and some light roguelike elements, then make sure to check this one out. It's also multiplayer, so you could play it with friends too. I'll give Children of Morta 1 heart warming out of 1 heart burning. This might not be everyone's style, but if you do like hack and slash RPG, make sure to try it. Next up, this game has the same thing in common with the last one, that it's not for everybody, although in this case it's only for kings. In Scourgebringer you play in a world ravaged by this entity called the Scourgebringer, that has led human civilization to an endless cycle of running away and starting anew. You play as this white-haired girl who was the strongest in her village, and you've been tasked with jumping into the Scourgebringer and figuring out why it loves CBTing humanity so much. This game is fast-paced. Like, fast, which is great because it makes the runs go by fast. A good thing, since trust me, you're gonna be doing a couple of runs. At first, the character is fairly limited, and by fairly limited, I mean double jump, rechargeable pistol attach attack, wall slide, and wall jump that refreshes all area movement, as well as a melee attack with the same attributes that also gives you longer air time, and when an enemy is nearby, it just locks on and wills them till they die, and last but not least, a bash that knocks enemies back and stuns them if they were vulnerable. And that's just the starting moveset. Just like in Children of Morta, this game is based off of a long-term progression scale. Except unlike in that game, the main resource gained upon death is player skill and knowledge. Here's how combat goes inside one of the rooms. Typically, your goal is to murder enemies as quick as possible since you are really fragile and lack any real intangibility besides getting hit, which lasts for not long enough. The main idea in the combat is that you want to take care of either the closest enemy or the highest threat in the room and then just keep chaining from there. Due to your insane amount of mobility, it means that no enemy is ever too far away from you, leading to the game being one of the most punishing and quick ones I've played in a while. This is especially important in the boss fights, which are reasonably easy if you know what they can do. And even if you don't, due to most attacks being telegraphed, you can easily dodge most of them. Defeating these bosses awards you with a permanent currency that can be used at the main hub of the game. Whenever you die, you get brought back to this chime tree where you can trade blood for moves and enhancements. These make a significant difference since having more options is really the best type of power up in a game like this. You can unlock things like your bash now reflecting projectiles, chain dashing, and even a combo meter. Although these power-ups are extremely good, they never make the core gameplay any easier. Instead, they just make the gameplay much more enjoyable and fun. Speaking of power-ups, I haven't even brought up the ones that you find in actual runs. And that's because they don't really matter. They are usually just some stat boosts or random bonuses. But honestly, that's pretty great since this game is just testing your skill and not your luck. So adding any inconsistent or intrusive power could really ruin what it's going for. It says a lot about the other power-ups when my favorite one to come by is just the one that fully heals you. I'm gonna give Scourgebringer a fat arthritis out of yes. If this sounds like the type of game for you, then I heavily recommend you check it out. Alright, so hey, I get it. Scourgebringer might have been too difficult for how demanding it was. Luckily, right here I have a game that is equally as challenging. Monolith is a top-down shoot-'em-up where you fly through dungeons blasting at enemies. The base mechanics are that you control your ship with WASD and you will always be aiming towards your mouse cursor. The game does give you a dash, but unlike many others, it has no invulnerability. It is purely used for getting out of the way of something, meaning you are no longer allowed to blink since you have to manually maneuver this bullet hell. The game also gives you these bombs that can be used to damage enemies, find secret rooms, and clear bullets off the screen. The main weapon is this pea shooter that can be swapped out with weapon pickups that will give you limited ammo and have some traits attached to them. The basic floor would go like this. The main goal is to find the boss door, which can only be opened by killing all the mini bosses. And while searching for the bosses, you will always find one treasure room, one weapon room, and a couple of shops. The power-up room will always give you a choice of 3 really strong power-ups. And although they are really powerful, they are never game-breaking and the game consistently stays difficult. The weapons, on the other hand, are always really good or sometimes extremely broken. And due to the sheer amount of ammo pickups, you'll always have more than enough bullets for a floor or even an entire run. Luckily, the game tries to fix this by giving you the option of swapping healing for a bonus. The bonus usually tends to be 1 heal, and in this game when you're at max HP, all heals become a bonus towards gaining even more max HP. Another thing that'll help you are the shops. Inside of these you can find a variety of health pickups, bombs, and even guns. After clearing a floor, you'll have more than enough money to buy whatever you want from them, especially since the bosses give a very large amount of money. Speaking of which, the main challenge in this game are these boss fights. They're all very unique and very interesting. Every boss in this game manages to be very intense while still being fair. Repeat this action 5 times or 6 times if you unlock the secret area, and then boom, that's one run done. It might sound like the game is a bit short, but that's because it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Being only $8, this amount of quality and replay value is unmatched by any other game I've seen. I'll be giving Monolith the amount of bullets on screen out of 10. If this looks even remotely interesting to you, please check it out. It's really cheap and an absolutely amazing game. Ah yes, the glory days, being stuck in the library doing nothing but playing this. Now it's time for the final game. I'm going to be talking about Bubble Tank 2 on Armor Games, but in HD. Nova Drift is an early access game, so a lot of features are missing, but what is here is really great. The art style is pretty and suits the game, but the main draw here is just how fun it is to play the damn thing. The game works like this. Start a new run and the waves start coming to you. Accelerate with left click and fire with right click. Hit the edge of the screen and pop up on the other side. The main way of getting stronger are these XP crystals that enemies drop upon defeating. And after obtaining enough XP crystals, you get a level up. The first 3 will always be a choice from a shield, a gun, and a body, which can be changed later on in a run if you think the new equipment will be better for your current situation. The bodies all offer different playstyles and benefits. The shields all offer a random bonus when they're active. And most importantly, all the weapons have really fun and cool synergies with all the modifications. The modifications being what you unlock after getting all of the first 3 components. Due to the sheer amount of modification, everyone's always going to feel different from each other despite there being very low enemy variety. And after completing each run, even more mods and game modes are unlocked. Meaning my immediate reaction after beating a run is to go back in and see what else I can get myself into. Although I wouldn't recommend purchasing it unless you really like what you see, since it is $17 and still in early access, but definitely keep an eye out for this game. I'm going to rate Bubble Tank 2 a 3 out of 5 and give Nova Drift the benefit of the doubt. Well, looks like that concludes all the games. Time to go back to working on the bigger video. What's that noise? What? That's right, a surprise bonus game, and this one's free! Sorta. Dead Estate was this browser Newgrounds game that recently got put into Steam as a demo and will eventually be released as a full game. The game starts with a girl being stuck in the middle of the road by a forest for some odd reason, and then a trucker lets her catch a ride back to where he's going. They seem like they're having fun. In fact, they're having so much fun they commit manslaughter. Luckily, it was just a zombie. Like 20 of them. So they decide to make a break for it and run off into the woods and find some weird mansion. Then boom, gameplay. Here you can pick one of the two, the girl being faster and starting with a shotgun but being fragile, and the old man starting with a pistol and being much slower but much more tanky. The game does the usual dungeon crawler roguelike style but with this strange and cool isometric view. The main way to progress through floors is by finishing the boss key. What the f? The main way to progress through floors is by finding the boss key, and you get stronger by finding weapon crates, item pickups, and buying stuff from the shopkeep. Since it is just a demo, there's only 3 floors and 3 bosses followed by the final boss. The gameplay is really fun and the art style is really pretty. Something I will say though is that the power-ups can be a bit strange sometimes. In my very first run I got an item that made it so all future chests dropped guns instead of power-ups, which I can't really see making sense ever. Then in the second run I got this power-up that gave me a bunch of stat-ups and a higher jump height, which was pretty good. But due to the weird perspective I would end up shooting in a random direction and I can't tell if it's me or the game. Also, since I couldn't control jump height, hitting enemies that were at your usual jump height became a very big problem. Another thing is this weirdo that would just not leave. He's there to inspire the player to get the fuck out of the level. I'm pretty sure in the first run I had, he was bugged so he never showed up. But in the second run he was really, let's just say, persistent. Besides those 2 things, again, this game is really promising and has a very good art style. The character designs are also really the character designs are I gave this game a who cares it's free out of 3. And that for real this time wraps up the vid. I'll probably do more like these in the future. It's a good excuse to go and play some games I haven't gone around to while spreading the word on some more interesting ones. If you liked what you saw, then you know what to do. Thank you for watching and goodbye. Now that's the stuff!